Hello, everybody, and welcome to another episode of the Cardano Artist Corner. Today, we're very honored to be in the presence of Louie Rochon. For those of you who do not know him, Louie is an internationally renowned Canadian-American contemporary painter, and you can find the links to the Rochon Fine Art website and to his social media at the bottom of the screen. So, Louie, welcome to the podcast, and how are you today?
Great, Alfred. Thanks for having me.
Mm-hmm.
It's a privilege to be here.
It's a privilege to have you. You haven't been a painter all your life. You started quite late in life, and you have been and you've done many things before. So can you sort of give us like a quick roundup of what you did before you were a painter, sort of the story of your life in a nutshell? And in particularly very interested about when you walked across the USA for kids with AIDS, no, with that initiative.
Whoa, okay, Albert, you want me to start 68 years? I've been working as an artist in one form or another. Prior to that, I was in business in some form or another. There's really two sides of me, really. There's the Gordon Gecko side, I call it. And then there's the altruistic, there's the artist side of me.
Right, so business and art.
There's business and art.
Mm-hmm.
And the first side of me, from the time I was a teenager, I was obsessed with making money, getting ahead, doing whatever I had to do to reach the all-American dream. Right. That's how I was. I grew up in Southern California. I came here from Canada when I was 4 years old. Mm-hmm. I didn't speak a word of English.
Because you're Quebecois, right, originally?
That's right. I could understand anything that said in French because my parents spoke French when we got to California. But I can't speak a word of it. Mm-hmm. I grew up a spoiled Southern California beach bum kid. I grew up knowing or chasing everything that I learned on TV as an American kid. Right. And that's all I knew. And so for the next, 25, 30 years, I chased the American dream. I didn't know anything else. And so I went up through the restaurant business. I spent 15 years in the restaurant business. I did real well. I started as a short order cook. I worked up until I managed 15 restaurants, a major burnout. Mm-hmm. My whole personality, Alfred, is a AAA workaholic. Mm-hmm. I ran myself into the ground. Sure. By the time I was 25, told you I'm going to give you a summary.
That's early for a burnout.
Well, I'm just getting to burnout. Mm-hmm. By the time I was about 23, I got married. I was burned out in the restaurant business, about 28, I guess. Then we moved as far away as I could from Southern California. We moved to Alaska. Mm-hmm. I had a small car. We sold everything. We shoved everything we could in the car, moved to Alaska to start all over again. Went in the restaurant business. When I was there, I didn't last 6 months. Mm-hmm. But I studied real estate. Mm-hmm. I got a real estate license. Mm-hmm. And then everything lit up. It was like I had a path. Right. Knew how to get the all-American dream.
Right. Again, chasing the same thing.
Oh, did I ever. And I hit the great Alaskan real estate boom. Mm-hmm. So for this Southern California kid, it was like I found the all-American dream. It was 1981. Mm-hmm. And exactly. 1981, a number of things happened. I hit the Alaska real estate boom. Like I said, there was the beginning of the oil rush happened at the same time that real estate started picking up. And at the same time, I got my real estate license. I found out I was pretty good at sales. Mm-hmm. So I plugged in. I found out I was good at sales. I also found out I was pretty good at doing cocaine and alcohol, and I didn't know about that either. Mm-hmm. So that's the Gordon Gecko side of things. Right. And I also, for about 3 or 4 years, I became one of the top salesmen in the state. Mm-hmm. also in the country and also in the world, I didn't realize.
Imagine
And
that.
yeah, and I'm not trying to blow my own horn, but you know, from a guy that was basically a short order cook not that many years before, I was making close to $200,000 a year.
Which was
And
a hell of a lot of money back then.
well, back in
now,
83 to 84 and 85,
Mhm.
I was in over my head.
Mhm.
I was good at what I was doing, but it was a blur. It was
Yeah,
an
sure.
absolute blur. And
Mhm.
I had identified myself with success by what I learned when I was a teenager on TV.
Yeah.
And I acquired everything that I ever knew as success.
Materialistic success.
I had it.
Mhm.
I had the Mercedes, I had the sales boats, I had rental properties, I had cars, I had suits, and I was so depressed. I had tried to kill myself twice.
Mhm.
And I didn't understand what was wrong.
Yeah, sure.
But what was wrong, I didn't understand, was that I had undiagnosed bipolar depression.
Mhm.
I was an alcoholic and a drug addict, but those came about as a result of undiagnosed
Mhm.
bipolar disorder, and I didn't know.
Yeah,
All
sure.
I knew is that I had to keep going, and what, as a result, a blessing, really what happened is the market died overnight,
Mhm.
because the oil market went to hell,
Mhm.
and subsequently real estate went with it.
Sure.
The blessing is that it ended in 1985. We left there and I went down to Seattle, started real estate again. Here's the synopsis and the summary coming to an end.
Mhm.
My wife basically gave me a choice of quitting alcohol or taking my new baby and my family and leaving. An alcoholic fog make the choice of
Mhm.
see ya. I know it sounds horrible when you're an alcoholic.
Well, that's how it is. Yeah.
That was the choice.
Mhm.
Well, 6 months later, I hit the skids, admitted myself into a treatment center. And that was 30 years ago. And I've been sober since.
Congratulations.
That was a good thing.
Yeah.
I got my family back, got my son back.
Mhm.
And it wasn't that much longer where I was diagnosed with bipolar depression. And since
Right.
then, it's been up and downhill battle, as many people know, but
Mhm.
it's a process. I had to scratch my way back into real estate again. We started with nothing. I had to file a bankruptcy because we had nothing. I had a family again, built the business back up again, and did really well this time. And after about 5 years ago, the market went dead in Seattle.
Yeah.
I had to start over again.
Sure.
Make the long story short,
How did art come into your life then?
so I'll tell you how it happened. I read a book, and this book was a book by Peter Jenkins, and it was a book called I forgot the name of the book, but he was I think it was The Long Walk Home or something like that.
Right.
And he walked across America,
Okay.
and it just intrigued me. So, and at the time I had been down in Scottsdale, Arizona. I was working for a company down there, writing a book about marketing. And I know the story. I'll tell you the story real quickly. I was driving across the desert, and I was praying, to be honest with you. And I was so depressed. And this idea, I'd read the book before, and it was just this guy and his dog, and he was walking across America trying to find himself. No big deal. But I was praying, and I was so depressed, and I was thinking, God, show me something way, because I was just suicidally depressed. And all of a sudden the thought rolled into my head, and I'm not kidding, it's a true story. The thought rolled into my head, and it was like, take a walk. Okay, take a walk.
Yeah.
All right. I need to clear my head. I'm going to take a walk.
Yeah.
No, take a long walk.
Take a long
I know
walk.
this sounds insane, but it's like, take a long walk. All right. I'm going to walk across Phoenix. Now you got to know, I was about 35, 40 pounds overweight. the idea of getting off the couch was a struggle, let alone you know,
walk to the convenience store. Yeah.
walk to the convenience store and grab a bag of potato chips when I was 35 pounds overweight and I was a chain smoker was the challenge. But you know, the idea of, okay, well, take a walk across the state of Arizona, that kind of turned me on.
Sure.
No, the voice was like, and I'm not hearing voices, I'm not, you know, but the idea came loud and clear, no, take a walk across America.
Right.
Well, then, you know, I'm halfway between the Colorado River and Arizona, you know, back to where I was living. No, take a walk across America was loud and clear.
Yeah.
And then I'm praying and I said, okay, God, if the idea doesn't leave me by the time I get back to Arizona, doesn't leave me, well, then I'm going to go ahead and follow through with this idea. It was like a deal with God. Well, the idea didn't leave me.
Yeah.
And I got more and more excited. And by the time I got home, I called my mom and I said, Mom, I'm going to walk across America. She says, you're nuts.
Yes.
And I said, no, I'm going to do it. The idea kept growing and growing and growing. And so I called a friend of mine and I said, just start. And so I went online and I started talking to people. I said, hey guys, because I knew that just walking across America was going to be cool, but I didn't like by reading this book by Peter Jenkins, I knew that he got a ton of publicity by doing this thing.
Yeah, sponsorships.
Yeah, well, it's not the sponsorship. It wasn't about the sponsorship. I had saved enough money that I knew I could sponsor myself across the country. Sure. But I knew he got a ton of publicity by doing it. And I knew that by doing the publicity, I could, and this plays in, this is important by why this ties into Cardano. It's very important why I tell the story.
Exactly.
I knew that by some of the marketing that I had done by these companies that I had started, some of the stuff that I had done, this all plays into where I'm going with this. What he had done with his walk inadvertently, he had found that this young guy with his dog, the act of him walking across the country created all this publicity. Everything where he went, all these newspapers and articles, people said, what are you doing walking across the country? So he got all this publicity. Well, I'm this 43-year-old fat guy, chain smoker, going to walk from Miami to Seattle, 43.
Even more unlikely.
I was going to go the long way. I was going to go from Miami to San Diego to Seattle the long way because I'd already done the research and know that I wasn't going to be able to walk across the mountains. Yeah, sure. Because I know what time of year I was going to go across the mountains. Yeah. So it was going to be the long way. So I had a feeling that's going to create some publicity. Sure. Well, I didn't care about getting the notoriety, but I knew that I was going to probably be able to do some good by doing this. So the next step was, well, what charity could I possibly do some good by doing this? So I put the feelers out all the way around. Now, you got to know that back in 1986, 87, there was really no internet to speak of. So I started putting emails out to all my friends. And I said, okay, I'm going to do this thing and I need some charity ideas. Well, they all told me I was nuts right off the bat. And they told me, you're crazy, you're too fat. You're never going to do it and you don't have the willpower to do it. I thought I'm going to do it anyhow. So I started getting these things back. Well, one of the people said, well, I know this guy, Jim Jenkins, and he has not the same Jenkins, but he has this charity for children with AIDS. It said children with AIDS. And I said, well, I know about children and I know about AIDS, but I didn't know about children with AIDS. So it fascinated me. So I gave this guy a call, but only after checking out a couple of the charities because I was concerned. The one charity I didn't want to walk for with AIDS. Now, don't get me wrong, I have no problem with it, but back in the 80s, I didn't want to get killed. And being out on the road, there was an identification with AIDS and being gay. Yeah. Now I heard that about here because I was kind of a hippie type guy because I wasn't working it anymore. And I was still kind of a California guy. And I didn't give a damn anymore.
Sure.
And walking across some of those states back in the 80s, I was going to be a target and I didn't want to get killed. So
That's
I
right.
didn't want to walk for. But I made the mistake of going to meet with this guy. Well, you met with some of these kids. It was all over when I met some of these kids. And like I said, these kids had AIDS. Well, I'm telling you, it broke your heart. Well, two of these kids that Jim Jenkins had contracted AIDS. And what I found out was a lot of these kids, obviously they're not gay, they pick up they were hemophiliacs. They pick up from transfusions. Well,
blood transfusions.
Found this out. I had my charity.
Right.
So long story short, I had set up a schedule in September of 86 was my drop dead date. I didn't have any I didn't have any sponsors. Nobody was interested in donating to AIDS. So screw it. I didn't have much money. I had to pick a date. I just had to do it. Long story short, we started at Hard Rock Cafe, September, I think it was 15th of 1987, I think it was, to start a journey back. And the walk finished, just to put a cap on the walk, it was the worst event of my life in terms of 1,000 stories of pain. And it was the best thing I've ever done in my entire life. We reached 90 million people with a story of hope. We spread awareness to children with AIDS. And it was, like I said, there was a number of events that happened. My life was threatened numerous times, and I wouldn't trade that experience for anything in the world. The thing that did happen as a result of that is I learned how to take an event, one single event, a ripple event, and this is why it was so important, and the reason why I bring up this event is that by taking something that I do, which is similar to what I want to do with this NFT, with Cardano. I can do one single event, like I can paint a painting, which is what I tend to do with Cardano. And we can put it on an NFT or a series of NFTs, and we can go out internationally. One single effort. I can start with one canvas, one event, like I can talk to you here, similar to a walk across America. One intention, like, okay, I want to walk across America. I want to do something with some kids. Just an idea. I can talk to you with an idea. Let's walk across America. Let's see what we can do. 90 million people are reached.
It's incredible.
Now, what can we do with? I have an idea, Alfred. What if I create a painting? What can we do with that? What if we put it on these NFT? I don't even know what an NFT. What if we do that?
Sure. And what happens?
We reach out. What can we do with that with Cardano? What happens if we do that? I don't know. What can we do with that? It's no different. It's the ripple effect. People said I was nuts to walk across the country. People said, well, you can't do it. Well, guess what we did after 2 years? We did it.
Exactly. You're throwing the stone in the pond, and then
it's dropping a single little stone. And this one fat guy walked across the country and it did it. Now, what can we do with, and I'll show you here, there's a blank canvas over sitting on this canvas, and I'm the 68-year-old heart patient. Do you think the painting will ever get done? I don't know. Maybe it'll get done. I don't know anything about the technique. Will it get done? I don't know. Maybe this will get done. Maybe it won't. But maybe with your help and a bunch of techie guys in Cardano, which I love, maybe it'll get done. Maybe it won't. Maybe this will turn into Banksy. You know Banksy, the artist?
Yeah. Exactly.
Maybe it'll get done. Maybe it won't. Maybe it'll turn into something really, really cool.
Did you always have the sense that there was like some creative part inside of you that you realize that
Yes,
before? Yeah.
I think those were the two darkest years where I kind of lost faith in myself. Those were horrible years because I'd finished the walk. I had this misguided, that was my loss of faith years, I think, because I had believed that prior to the walk, I had prayed prior to the walk. And I'd asked God that, I had let myself go. I'd said, God, if you have a plan for me, then show me the way.
Right.
And I believed that the walk was the way.
Right.
I had said, I'm willing to give my life to whatever it is.
It's almost biblical, isn't it?
Well, it was for me, because for 2 years I had said, I'm willing to die for this cause.
Sure.
And I had put myself in harm's way numerous times during that walk, that I was challenged at gunpoint, and not gunpoint, at knife point.
Yeah.
During that walk, but I felt that the mission was more important than my life, and I kept walking through that. And so I really did feel that this was a God thing, and yet I kept walking through it. And yet at the very end, I had felt that God let me down. But, and I know that sounds odd, but it's really the truth, how I felt. And at the very end, I was this drunk finishing this walk, but I did finish the walk. And then there were 2 really dark years in there that I felt that God had let me down. No, he didn't let me down. I had let me down.
Sure.
But, for 2 years I had wandered around in there, but I managed to get through it. But it was such a blessing, though, that I did come out of it. And at the end of it, when I did come out of it, I really did find that diagnosis. Yeah. My timing was off in there. But what happened was, when I did come out of it, I did have a full diagnosis that I was bipolar 2.
Right.
And I did get on the right diagnosis. So when I did get on the right diagnosis, finally, and that was right around 2000. And then that's how I found my art career. And that kind of came about as a funny way. I was in the library and a book literally fell off a shelf. And I'm not kidding. I literally came off a shelf. Yeah. I was looking for something artistic that I wanted to do. I didn't want to go back into business, but I needed to find a way. And this book called The Simple Screamer fell off a shelf. And it was a book on paper mache, these funny little paper mache things. Picked it up, and it was a book on how to build these things. So I said, oh, what the hell? So I started building these funny little paper mache sculptures. Well, one thing led to another, and they got bigger and bigger and bigger and bigger. So after about 6 months, I was building these life-size paper mache sculptures.
Yes.
Well, they became more popular. Next thing I know, within 6 months, I was putting these things in a gallery. And they started selling. Well, within a year, I opened my own gallery down in southern Washington. And I did that for about a year. And then they became more popular. And after a while, I became disillusioned with doing these for business.
Because you did this for maybe 5 years now altogether? Or?
Yeah, I did this for a few years. And I became disillusioned with running a gallery because I learned that doing them for a gallery, you're just basically
another type of businessman.
Yeah, I was doing it for business. It was boring the hell out of me. I wanted to do it creatively.
Sure.
And the sculpture wasn't as interesting for me anymore. I lose interest in things pretty quick. Yeah. But they were interesting for a while. I made hundreds of these things. So, but it wasn't. It was a process. It wasn't interesting. It wasn't expressing what I was trying to get to.
Right. And then from there, I think you moved on into photography. Is that correct?
Photography was really interesting for me. So right around 2000, I think it was, I started doing photography. I purposely didn't want to copy anybody. So I started experimenting, different techniques. I was fascinated with flowers. So I started picking up flowers. I would bring them into my room. I started getting more and more into macro photography. I started learning about different artists, different types of photographers. I started learning their techniques. And the more that I started doing that, I stopped doing it immediately. Because what happened was I started finding myself copying what they were doing.
Yeah, sure.
So I made a deal with myself immediately to stop doing that. And that served me well over time. What happened was I was finding myself copying a certain color or a technique. Does that make any sense?
Yep.
So I stopped immediately doing it. So then I'd find maybe a different lighting technique, right? Technically, I would learn different things about a camera. And what I would do is I would set up my monitor over here and I'd play a video as to a different technique. And then I would try it. I'd turn it off and I would try it. I tried this and I'd try that and I'd try this, different lighting. And so over the course of a year, I'd get a little better at things and I would just keep going. Then I would go to a gallery and then I'd be invited to do something. And over a period of, and then I would build a website and I would learn how to do a different website. I did this for 3 or 4 or 5 years.
Yeah.
I became more and more frustrated though.
But at the same time, you were getting quite successful with it. I mean, you were sort of publicly acknowledged, as being good at it. So.
Yeah, I would do more and more shows, but
you weren't happy.
I became more and more frustrated because what happened was I was trying to emotionally capture
the essence of you, maybe.
Yeah, from an emotional standpoint, I guess this is where my bipolar comes in, okay? Let's take it in terms of what I'm talking about right now. Let's say photographically, how I approach it. Let's say that I'm working with a flower. Let's just take that I'm going to go back into my photographic mind, for example.
Sure.
The frustration with that I'm going to put myself into a photo shoot with a flower. And here I'm bringing up tremendous frustration and anxiety, irritability, depression, because that's what the feeling that I would have had back then.
Yeah.
As opposed to my painting now, which is different. I would approach a flower and a great deal of frustration because I'm trying to get out
your emotions, maybe.
My emotions, because here's a flower that I've got in front of me. Let's say this is a flower right here. And I've got my camera right here. And I'm trying to, and this flower is a reflection. And I'm trying to capture a reflection coming back at me. And that's as much as I'm ever going to get as a reflection back coming at me. That's all I'm ever going to get. I'm never going to be able to get anything more than a reflection.
Okay.
Now, my photography, if you were to go to my website, okay, you're going to get something a little bit different. And that's why my photography was successful. I never shot a reflection back of, in the beginning, if you look at my earlier work, it's completely different than my last work. My later work, you saw a glow to my flowers. In fact, all of my later work, that's all you're going to see. It's completely different. It glows. And the reason it glows is that I always shot from behind. You'll see that. Right. Because they're very, very long exposures. And what I did is if you saw the flower like this, I always took a candle or one single light and I put it behind the flower. And so what happened was I shot the camera here, the light here, and I would open the lens from here and I would just hold it for a period of about 10, 20, 30 seconds. And so the light would come through the leaf for maybe 10, 15, 20, 30 seconds. So what's happening is you're seeing the whole essence of the plant coming through.
Right.
So you're not seeing a reflection coming back off the plant.
Gotcha.
You're seeing the whole essence of the flower coming through.
Coming
So you're
out.
really seeing like a time lapse.
Yeah.
So you're not seeing me, you're seeing really the reflection of a light. So you're seeing some really cool essence of a flower. But no matter what you're seeing, you're still seeing a reflection coming back off of a flower.
An
So I was able to
interpretation.
capture some pretty cool things off of a plant.
Yeah.
But still, you're asking about what I was capturing. No
Yeah.
matter what, you're capturing light coming off of an image.